Hey everybody, and welcome to Foundations. It's been a while since I did the last video because I had a knee injury from running, and seeing as the next class was pigeon pose, I was like, I can't do pigeon pose with a knee injury. So it's been quite a few months. I now have a microphone, which makes it a bit easier for me. So today, as I said, we'll be learning pigeon pose. And props that you'll maybe want to have around, I'll show you how to use, are 2 blocks. And I have a couple of blankets. You can have pillows. It's better to have more props than less, because then you at least have them nearby your mat if you decide you want to use them later, even if you think maybe at first, oh, I don't need those. If you have them ready, then you don't have to stop the video, get up and get them. It's just convenient that way. Same goes for if you're in a class, have those props ready. All right, so let's start with just a couple of blocks. And we've already learned Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. And to get into this pose, you can prop your hips with a blanket. I'm just gonna not do that because I don't want to get my blanket dirty. And then bring feet together, knees apart, and take those blocks. I have mine at the middle height level. If you don't have blocks, you can use books. And I want to put those underneath my knees to kind of support my knees, but I'm not moving them in so close that my knees are fully supported. I want to have a little bit of give here. So my knees are actually pressing down onto the blocks. So my legs are super active here. And there's a reason for this. This is different from the way I taught you the pose in that initial class. The reason we're doing this is when I'm pressing down with my knees, with my legs pressing down into those blocks, I'm really activating the outer hips here. And in pigeon pose, we stretch the outer hips. So before I'm gonna ask that part of my body to stretch, I really wanna kind of get it warm and juicy so that it feels better. It's nicer for the body that way. Yeah, I'm excited to teach this pose. I used to teach it in a very different way, and I have learned a lot. As teachers, there's a mosquito flying around here. As teachers, we're always learning. And sometimes we change the way we're doing things because we learn something better or something more about the body. And so don't be surprised if you hear different sorts of cues in yoga and you're like, wait, what does this mean? Why did they change it? Well, we're just people too. We learn things. Also, keep pressing with your legs. Stay really active. Don't let up. I'm also really excited to teach this pose because it's been personally really difficult for me, this pose. It's a challenge because of a history of knee injuries from running. This pose doesn't necessarily work for me in every variation. So hopefully we can find a way to make it work for you. Good. So let's set those blocks aside. And we've already learned low lunge and half splits. So I'm gonna put my blocks at the highest height here and bring my left leg forward, coming into a grounded version of low lunge here. And take a big inhale, and then on an exhale, shift the hips back into half splits. The knee does not have to straighten all the way. If your hamstrings are tight, you're working on flexibility in that area of the body. Let's inhale, come forward. Then you don't have to bend the knee all the way. On an exhale, move back to half splits. And inhale, come forward. 2 more times. Exhale, move back. And inhale, move forward. Last time, exhale, move back. And inhale, come forward. Good, we're just gonna pause here in our grounded low lunge. Continuing to breathe. And then switch sides. So bring the right leg up. Take a deep breath in and exhale, shift the hips back. Inhale, shift forward. And And exhale, shift back. I forgot how many times we did this on the other side, so we're just going to take a good guess. Inhale, shift forward. And exhale, shift back. One more time. Inhale, shift forward. And exhale, shift back. On your inhale, shift forward and pause here in your low lunge. Holding here and continuing to breathe. There's a squirrel running around in the trees up above me. All right, so let's step back. Good. And let's try pigeon pose. So often in class, you'll hear somebody say, all right, so we're gonna come into pigeon pose from downward facing dog. And don't do it, just watch. And they'll say, now bring the top of your shin parallel to the mat and come into pigeon. And I'm like, I cannot get my shin parallel to the top of the mat so easily. That's so much easier said than done. So if you have, we'll just sit and talk for a moment. If you have very shallow hip sockets here where the leg bone comes into the pelvis and where they join, then you're very fortunate, well, sort of. You're just really flexible, and it may be really easy for you to bring your shin parallel to the top of the mat. But for most of us, that's a really almost impossible thing to ask of our bodies. And so it's okay to have your heel closer into your hips. That's a way of reducing the amount of rotation that's required in your leg bone. But even this can be quite a lot. This is pigeon pose, by the way, if you haven't seen it before. Back leg extended, front leg is like this, something like this. Again, some people can bring their shin parallel to the top of the mat. That is extraordinarily uncomfortable for me and for a lot of other people. So you can, if this is comfortable for you and you want to stay here, that's fine. You can bring your arms down to rest on some blankets, like so. And laying down like this is for most people way more comfortable than being upright in pigeon pose, because this way, when you're upright in pigeon pose, you're in kind of a back bend here. That's a lot of a back bend. So laying down is a lot more restful. If this is quite a lot for you, you can take a blanket or two. I'm going to start with one blanket. And you can put the blanket underneath both your knee and your hip so that the blanket extends the entire length of the thigh here. And that feels very nice for me. Try that out, see how it works for you. You can stack more blankets, more pillows, or even a bolster underneath this thigh here, all the way from knee to hip. And one more option, one more thing you can do is you can take a big bolster, stack of blankets, and you can put that right underneath the seat here, underneath both hips. And from there, if you want to recline, you can have something to, or not recline, that's laying back. If you want to lie down forward, you can have something underneath you to support you. Or you, if it's comfortable for you, you can just lie all the way down on the mat. So find your version of pigeon pose. We're just going to do one side after the other, so it doesn't matter which side you're on. Let's just pause here in our own particular version of pigeon and focus on the breathing. Breathing into the hips. So with every exhale, imagine your hips melting into the posture. Hopefully you've found some place where you can rest and be comfortable in this pose. It can be a really intense pose, but I think with enough props we can make it accessible. If this is still not working for you, we have another version of the pose that I'm going to show you in a minute that might work better for you. So just bear with me. We're gonna switch sides if you are with me here. So that was really comfortable for me. I'm just gonna keep my props right where they are and switch my legs. Steady the breath. Nice, deep, even breaths going in and out the nose. Close your eyes or soften the gaze. Relax the muscles of the face, especially around the mouth and the jaw area. Good. So slowly come up out of this pose. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but just enough to help you get the idea of the pose so you can practice it on your own and play with props on your own, trying to find a way to make this pose work for you. We'll keep these foundations classes nice and short. And we're going to come down onto our back. So this is a reclining pigeon that we're coming into. Some people call it figure 4. And the reason is we're going to make a figure 4 shape with our legs. So maybe you can see this from this angle, I don't know. I'm going to bring my left leg up and cross that ankle over my right leg. Good. Now that might be enough for you, or you can bring your hands and interlace fingers behind your right thigh. Or if it feels better, maybe around your shin there. I like that better. And draw the legs in towards the chest just until you feel a little bit of something in that outer left hip. And this pose I find is a lot more accessible. I think you can manage to have a lot more control over the sensations in this pose. And these pigeon pose variations are great poses to start to learn that, every body is different, especially in the hips. Our pelvises are physically different. So somebody else's pigeon pose is going to look entirely different from yours. It's going to feel different from yours. And that's okay. I tried for so many years. Let's switch sides here. I tried for so many years to get my shin parallel to the top of the mat until I finally was like, I don't think after years of consistent practice that is going to work in my body. It was something that I had to let go. And that's not easy. We have ideas of what we think our bodies ought to be able to do. And sometimes we have to acknowledge, my body is maybe not ready for that. Or maybe that's just not something my body will ever be ready for. But what I'm doing is just as good. And I can still grow a beautiful practice with hips just like mine. And let's slowly release this pose. And bring feet to earth. Now just see if you can just rock the pelvis back until your low back comes flush with the mat. And then we'll windshield wiper the knees side to side. That was a quick little practice, but hopefully you gained something from it. You can add pigeon pose to your list poses you know now, building your practice, learning the poses just a couple at a time. And soon we'll be starting to put those together. Good. And now you can move into Shavasana, or I'm just gonna, again, rock my pelvis back so my low back is flush to the mat. My feet are mat's distance apart, and I'm gonna let my knees fall into the midline, which is this imaginary line that runs up the center of the body. So if I say knees fall into the midline, it just means knees fall in towards the center of the body. Knees are supporting each other here. And here, this pose I'm in is called constructive rest position. So find rest either in this pose or Shavasana. Hands can rest wherever feels comfortable. And I'll leave you here, hoping you find a little bit of peace and rest today. Namaste.